Yeah.
Nobody minds. Okay. And it's about 7:01. So let's do this. I'm going to go around the virtual room, and we'll say a word or two about ourselves. And I think what I'll do is I'll go first. My name's Doug Lyon. I'm the president of the Inventors Association of Connecticut, a completely volunteer organization. We run on the goodwill and membership dues of our members, and we would encourage everybody to join. We've never raised the rate since I've been president. It's been $45 a year. And you used to get access to this most excellent holiday party for free, or at least included at the end of the year. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have a holiday party this year. But other years we'll have it. And you'll also get the parking decal. And so that helps you avoid getting a ticket from security if you're parking on campus, which we're not doing because we're not having anything but virtual meetings now. But that'll change because soon there'll be a vaccine. It'll be the land of Shangri-La and milk and honey, and everything will be hunky-dunky. So join IACT. That's my sales pitch. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself?
Mike Blake. I will talk then. Yeah, I'm Mike Blake. There's a couple mics here. That's why I was confused.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm a patent and trademark attorney and also a mechanical engineer. And I was just thinking, I've had my own law practice for 16 years now. And if anyone needs help with patents or trademarks, please contact me. I'll put my contact info in the chat if anyone's interested. Thanks.
Jason, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Liu. I in my life, I deal with technology, research, and commercialization of technology. Thank you.
Larry, you're muted. Would you like to say a few words?
Unmuted, there I am.
Yeah,
Yes. Happy to be here, Doug. I've been to a few of the meetings in Fairfield and always enjoyed them. I have a market research company in Litchfield, Connecticut, and haven't been too active, I have to say, with COVID and everything that's going on, but I'm always interested in new products, new inventions, and always interested to hear great presentations you have here. So happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Doug Campbell, nice to see you. Why don't you say a few words?
Yeah. Hey, Doug. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. The Success Coach, I'm a CEO coach. I'm also an entrepreneur in residence in Stanford, and I work with Connecticut Innovations, so a range of companies around Connecticut. And I remember Warren way back when he was a baby business guy, and I've followed his stories and successes along the way. So I thought it'd be fun to learn from him. And I've spoken to this group a couple of times over the years as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Doug, what happened to our hair? For God's sake.
I don't know. We need an invention. Oh, I know. It's a toupee. Bill, you want to say a couple things, or are you able to connect?
I'm in finally.
Oh, okay. Bill, you're up.
I'm up. Okay.
Hey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. I just turned the switch, so I'm a little bit off balance. Yeah, Bill Caltagirone here. I'm a longtime IAC participant, and my specialty is doing management transitions in lower middle market companies, those with from $1 million to $5 million EBITDA, particularly interested in manufacturing. And recently, well, last year actually switched the ownership of Game Sportswear from the senior father to the daughter, and doing fairly well.
Wow. Michael V, I guess I don't know the V. What's the V for?
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name's Michael Vaudreuil. People find it hard to pronounce or spell, so I abbreviated it to Michael V. It seems to work pretty well. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm recently, well, not recently, but 4 years I've been in Connecticut. I moved from Central Mass 4 years ago. working for a large aerospace company down in East Hartford. I'm a new member to the inventors group here. And what drew me to the group is that I'm developing a product. I have my PPA filed back in the end of August, and I was hoping to network and learn about potential licensing of that my IP for that product.
Very nice. Mark Roser.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Roser. Glad to be here. I'm also a mechanical engineer by training. I've run my own consulting company, new product development for 20 years, and I'm working on right now a new medical device that's been sponsored by SBIR grants. We have 3 different universities that are testing it. It's for the helping people to walk and a variety of different other medical conditions. We're getting good clinical data, and my eventual hope within the next 2 years is to license it to a major company and move on to the next invention.
Very nice. Sandra Steele, want to say a few words about yourself?
Hi, I remember I joined IACT, oh, I don't know how many years ago. I used to come down to Fairfield.
Yes.
Yes, and so I'm just back. I'm working on something, so I'm going to come in and sit, listen, and see what I can learn.
Very good. Let's see who we have here next. I've got, let's see, Mike Goldberg. Mike, are you muted? I think your mic is.
Yes, I was. I thought yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Glad to help. My name is Mike Goldberg. I have engineering consulting firm in Glastonbury. Been in business since the mid 70s. Been coming to your meetings for as long as I can remember. Happy to be here.
Very cool. Chad Lyons, it looks like you're still having trouble with your audio. Moses, why don't you chime in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. I'm Moses Strasfeld. Basically, I'm a retired software engineer who'd like to work at the hardware software interface. I'm available for free if somebody just wants to talk about a project of theirs related to computers. And Doug, I just took a look at your book on Amazon. It's $80.
What?
That's just the paper version. If you get the Kindle version, it's $9.99.
Well, it says I can have the Kindle version for $0 if I sign up for some sort of thing here.
Oh, maybe you can.
70% is like $56 a pop.
Yeah. Well, that's so the libraries will pay me.
Well, I hope you make some money on this.
I can always lower the price. If I cut it in half, will you buy it?
Yeah, at $40, I'll buy it.
You will? Oh, I'm doing that now. Just a minute.
Okay.
Doug, you got to watch out for reverse price elasticity. People will think it's garbage if it's too cheap.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I should double the price.
Double the price. Double the price, double the volume.
Charlie Shirts, are you?
Oh, hi, Doug. It's Charlie Shirts. I've been a member of IACT for since about 1987 and off and on. And I'm an inventor and mechanical engineer and entrepreneur. And I love the speakers you get, and I join whenever I can. And tonight I have great news. Today I launched a new invention of mine that's patent pending on Amazon and on the web, and it's already doing well. And I would love to get everyone's comments and opinions how I could improve the website and other marketing channels.
And what is the website URL?
So the URL is getthemozy.com. That's MOZY. So it's GETTHEMOZY.com. I just finished the website today and put it up, and it still needs a lot of improvement, but I would love to get more feedback on it. And it's a timely product that I hope will do well with this quarantine and the outdoors nature of things now.
Cool. Well, good luck with that.
All right,
Dawn,
thank you.
Dawn K. What's the K for, Dawn? You're muted. Dawn? We'll go to Peter Kutsukos. Oh, Dawn, are you with us?
Yes, hello, Dr. Lyon, Dawn Kubik. I'm here back from living at different parts of the country, finishing up the electrical degree. And so I have a project I'm working on with my team. They're mechanical engineers, and just trying to pull the project together, with looking at some prior inventions we've looked up on the government website, the patent website, and reading material for it's a recycling machine, and I don't know if we're disclosing it yet, but so I'm here just to gather a little information.
Cool. Peter Kutsukos. I hope I pronounced it right.
Very good. Yes, you have. Thanks, Doug. So I'm a visiting assistant professor at Fairfield at the moment, and I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. I've worked over my career in a variety of startups and large organizations. Part of the reason I'm here tonight is just to have a listen, because I'm teaching some of the undergraduate students at Fairfield and in the computer science and engineering department, and trying to get them involved in the Fairfield startup competition.
Great. That's great.
Yeah, so I thought I'd come along and have a listen.
Terrific. Thank you. John, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, Giacchiotto. I'm probably butchering it. You're muted, so we can't hear you. John? Maybe I pronounced your name so badly you didn't recognize it. Giacotto? Giacotto, John? Oh, we'll go on.
Hey, sorry, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't realize that we were all going to go around the room and
yeah, we're just going around introducing ourselves. That's it.
Okay, yeah, sure. I've never been to one of these meetings before, but I assume we're doing introductions. So basically, I own a small web application development company in Connecticut, and shifting to focus more on emerging technologies, conversational AI, and building applications for voice assistants like Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. Also trying to get into some IoT development as well. But basically, an entrepreneur since 2007.
And how do I pronounce your last name?
Giacotto.
Giacotto. Yeah, I did butcher it badly. Sorry about that.
No worries, it's Chinese.
All right, so let's see. Did we get through everybody? I think we might have done. So what I'll do, without further ado, is I'll introduce the speaker. Some of you already know Warren Tuttle. He's got a new book out called Inventor Confidential. It's not quite out yet. It's a HarperCollins. It says here it's an honest guide to profitable inventing. I thought all the inventors were honest. Then it says here, because if they're not, then they're what do they call them? Not charlatan, con artists. Right? So the difference between a con artist and an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur actually believes what he's saying. So it says it covers a wide range of topics, all dedicated to promoting grassroots innovation in America. The first half of the book describes what a successful corporate open innovation program looks like and why it's important. I'm not going to read the whole abstract because we've got it here online. And the speaker biography, I must tell you, Warren, it seems to have doubled in size over the years, if not tripled, because this just keeps getting more and more impressive all the time. One of the things that I'm still using is the gourmet olive oil sprayer. I think they called it Mr. Misto. And oh, you still have one of those hanging around? I bet you have them in storage or something.
I got one right here.
Unsold. Don't go away because we're going to call on you.
I just dropped it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I have one of those. I think it started working on me. All right.
I'll
So
send it back to me. I'll give you a new one.
And so without further ado, Warren, why don't you take the floor?
Thank you, Doug. Thanks very much. And thanks for having me back. And Doug, thanks for all the hard work and effort you put in over the years.
Oh, sure.
To make the club great and keep it going, because you've been doing it for quite a while now, right? It must be 8-9 years, right?
Over 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. And Fairfield University is such a great school and such a great treasure and resource in this area. So we very much appreciate it. So I know a bunch of you. It's nice to see you again. For those that are new, I live in New Canaan, so I don't live too far away. I'm a local Connecticut. The IACT was the first inventor club I ever joined and got involved in 15 years ago. And that was sort of my introduction. So just very, very quickly, and then I'll basically want to talk about a little bit about the book tonight. My background is this, and Doug Campbell knows well. Out of college many, many years ago, I went to work for a department store in New York City called Abraham and Straus. And if any one of you are familiar with Abraham and Straus, then you're pretty old. But it was a great store based out of Brooklyn, New York, with stores in Long Island, Westchester, New Jersey, and Queens and Brooklyn, New York. Third biggest single standing store in the world was in Brooklyn, the main store in Fulton Street. Today it's all Macy's, but at the time, A&S had the best retail training program in the country. And I was a young, I like to say WASP kid from Connecticut. And my dad said, if you really want to learn retailing, if that's really what you want to do, you got to go down to Brooklyn and learn it from the Jewish merchants at Abraham and Straus. And I had an amazing experience going there and working and living in New York City for many years. I was a trainee, I was an assistant buyer, and I eventually made buyer. And I was in the housewares area. I did everything from Christmas shop to flatware to eventually cookware, and then I was a small electrics buyer. So I became a trained merchant. I learned Yiddish, and my whole career took a new direction for me. And after a number of years, I decided that I wanted to start my own stores. And I did that. I came up to Connecticut and I started a couple of stores that Doug's familiar with called The Complete Kitchen and The Good Food Store. Well, The Good Food Store, I didn't start, I acquired it, but I added on about 6 stores around Fairfield County. And we were, The Complete Kitchen was a high-end gourmet specialty store, sort of like a Williams-Sonoma, smaller version of Williams-Sonoma. And we also had a nationally renowned cooking school, and I had stores in Greenwich and eventually Wilton, Connecticut, Ridgefield, and Bronxville, New York. And then I acquired a store called The Good Food Store, which was a prepared food store, one of the first really high-end gourmet prepared food stores back in the 80s. And it all synergized into a pretty cool collection of stores. I ended up having about 65 employees, about 45 full-timers and 20 part-timers in multiple locations. And I spent most of my time based in Darien, but I was always running around the countryside running these stores. This was in the pre-Amazon. I remember Doug Campbell telling me back in the late 80s, get ready for the internet. It's where the business is going. I was like, too busy, trying to sell stuff off the back of the truck. So, but it was fun. I met Doug and got very involved locally with a bunch of guys our own age. We were youngsters back then with the Darien Chamber of Commerce. Got very involved in the downtown revitalization effort in Darien, which sort of mimicked what happened in Fairfield. And just spent a lot of time learning, being my own business. And as you guys know, we're in your own business, real bullets, working with your own capital, all the issues with inventory, customer service, rents, payrolls, and all the other things. And, it wasn't long before I hated the whole fucking thing. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me back it up. But I learned that retail is very tough. And then along the way in the 80s and 90s, America became over retail, especially in our area. Suddenly Bed Bath & Beyonds were popping up and Macy's and Sonoma's and food stores and so forth and so on. And it became more and more difficult. Now we had a unique sort of approach to the business, and it was integrated between, if you want to learn how to cook, we'll teach you. If you don't want to cook at all, we'll sell you the prepared foods. If you want to buy the cookware, we'll sell that to you. So it was an interesting thing, but it was very labor intensive and not an easy area, rent wise and so forth to prosper. And although our numbers on the surface were pretty good, it was typically a struggle. And then one day, and this is where the story gets fun, in 1997, an inventor walked into the store. His name was Tom Risch, and he was from Weston, Connecticut. And he was about our age also. And he had invented this product called Misto, an olive oil sprayer. And he and I sort of hit it off from the word go. And I talked to him for an hour or two about the product. It was basically an olive oil sprayer. Hadn't existed before that. It was all natural. You could take off the cap, fill the chamber with your own selection of oil. You pressurize the cap by pumping it like a squirt gun. And it had a special nozzle that could handle the viscosity of a thicker material like oil. And it could spray it. And so what people who don't cook didn't realize, but people who cook gravitated to immediately, was this was sort of a replacement for Pam. And about 100 million cans of Pam are sold every year in supermarkets around the world. The only problem with Pam, nothing wrong with it, but it uses a low-grade vegetable oil. It has preservatives in it. You don't want to use it around a flame because it's fired by a propane gas. And when you're done with it, you throw the can away, and there's enough cans thrown away every year to fill our landfills to circumnavigate the globe. So Tom figured out all these things, invented this product, worked about 2 years on it, and came down, and he was trying to beta test it and see how it would do. And we brought in the first 12 pieces to my store in Darien and sold them right off the counter within 20 minutes. And I knew we were on to something. Long story short, we were making them in Bethel, Connecticut. In the beginning, we were making them 12 at a time. After a while, we could make 700 or 800 a day with an assembly line. We used a fulfillment center there. And we started selling them at gourmet stores around New England. We partnered, and then we eventually sold to Bloomingdale's, Macy's, and went around the country, and it took off from day one. And we sold 1.2 million Mistos in our first full year of business in 1998. And I made more money in 1 year than I had made my whole career. So I thought that this is very exciting. Plus, there were no issues with inventory. Everybody wanted what we had. And so I spent 4 years with Tom sort of developing this business while I still owned the stores, and I decided that was for me. So long story short, and you can read about this in the book, I talk about it a little bit. I got out of the retail business, out of 65 employees, out of inventory, out of rent, all the expenses and frustrations with that. Good timing, by the way, because Amazon hadn't even showed up on the scene yet. And I got into the business of first helping Tom, and then he really didn't want to expand the business. So I decided that I would figure out a model to help inventors. So it was about that time I joined the IACT, and I started researching. I took basically a year off from working and just kind of researched the marketplace and what I wanted to do when I grew up. Along the way, I helped develop another product called Stir Chef, which was a saucepan stirring device. We talk about that a little bit in the book too. Put a lot of money into that, partnered with people, took it to a couple of trade shows, was announced by Good Morning America in the Today Show as the hottest new housewares item in the country. Launched it, sold 110,000 pieces, shipped them all, and none of them sold. Total disaster. So you can read about that one in the book. So my kung fu lessons had not entirely been learned. I thought I knew it all after Misto and after my stores, but I realized with failure, and it took me about 2 years to dig out of that failure, sell off all the inventory, lick my wounds, and spent a lot of the money I'd earned. And then my next project was called Smart Spin, which is another hit for me. We put it on TV. It was a storage system that ended up going on TV, and without going into details, sold many millions of those and got back in the saddle. So my career was going up and down in terms of cash flow and making money, and really learning the real lessons in life. And I went to a trade show around 2007, I think it was, or 2008. And I knew a lot of people in the housewares industry because I had been a buyer at Abraham & Straus, and I had my own stores, and I had launched Misto, and I knew a lot of people. and I was in one of the booths for the largest housewares company in the US called Lifetime Brands. They're a publicly traded company under Elcut. They're a non-electrics housewares company. And the chairman of the company, who I'd known for many years, was asking me how the inventions were going and all that. And he said, we don't do anything with inventors or outside products. How would you like to come and run a program for us to find products for us? And that became the basis of an open innovation program. So to find open innovation, it's really larger companies going outside their walls to find new products outside the company. And sort of the patriarch and probably the most famous story in open innovation is the story of Procter & Gamble, and the story how back in the 60s and 70s, all of their products were proprietary and developed in-house. And then a guy named A.G. Lafley came along and decided he would open it up. And today, over 50% of the new products that Procter & Gamble launches are from outside ideas and innovation and inventors and so forth. And now other companies like Unilever and many other companies have followed suit. And a lot of big programs have open innovation programs. So I developed this as an outside contractor, not working for Lifetime, this open innovation program. And it's been quite successful. We're in our 15th year now. I've done over 100 licensing deals and generated over $350 million in business for them, which is great. If you add up the amount of business I did with Misto and SmartSpin and some of the other things, I've now launched products in my other companies that have generated over $1 billion in retail sales. So I have a lot of experience in this stuff now. And what was great, what was terrific about Lifetime was they let me do my thing. They still let me do my thing. Amazingly enough, every month money goes in my account. I don't know exactly how that happens, but I have money and I don't have to even beg for it and run it down. And then if I have successes, they pay me success fees. So I started the program with Lifetime. It's been very, very good. Then I contracted with a company called Tektronix Industries. They're a largest power tool company in the world. They do Ryobi, Rigid, and Milwaukee power tools, and many other brands. They're the biggest single supplier to Home Depot. And my relationship came to an end with them this summer, but I did it for 7 years. The reason it came to an end was because the guys that hired me left the company and they brought in the head of Milwaukee, and he didn't want to do anything outside the company. So they don't take outside ideas anymore, unfortunately. But we had a great run. And then I also do it for a DRTV company called Merchant Media. We have a big hit called True Touch right now, which is gloves that you put on and then you can pet your dog and groom your dog. And we've sold over 4 million of those now. And I'm continually looking for products and negotiating deals and things for them. So I run these open innovation programs, and that's the heart and soul of the book. And along the way, I got involved obviously in IACT, but then I was asked to be on the board of the National United Inventors Association, which is the largest 501c3 national inventor group. And we network with a lot of the clubs around the country. And I became president of the UIA, and Doug, all my experience running the chamber and all came good. It's just national instead of local. And we connect with about 80 inventor clubs like IACT around the country. I got very involved. I'm now on the National Pro Bono Patent Commission. We do all the pro bono patent hubs so that people who can't afford patents can get them for free. And then I was just asked to be on the National Council for the Expansion of American Innovation, which I represent the inventor community. And the other day I was on a call and I didn't realize I started talking. And then the next person after me was Mary Barra, the chairman of the board of General Motors. And it's the chairmans of 3M and IBM and all these massive companies around the country and so forth. So little by little, I've been integrated and I've become an advocate for inventor rights in Washington, D.C. And so I just give you that background really quickly because I'll just sort of walk you through what the book is about and why I wrote it. So that's sort of my credentials. I've now spent 20 some years in the inventor space, and I've observed a lot of things. And the first thing is that inventing is hard work, that it is an industry of passion and love and pursuit, but most things don't succeed. And so it makes it a very interesting business. Typically you go into business because it's a way of making profit, and you partner or align or do whatever is necessary, even if you're an independent sole proprietor, of doing things that are profitable. And yet in the invention world, so little is profitable. And what really compounds that challenge is that you have a lot of people, individuals, organizations, companies, entities that then, in my opinion, prey, maybe that's a strong word, but they take advantage of inventors and they sell them their services. And in some cases, the services are bogus. In some cases, they're mediocre. But in almost every case, there's this subliminal message being sent to inventors that making millions of dollars is right around the corner. I have a stack of books here. I look at videos all the time. There's this I saw a video recently where one of the more identifiable people in our industry was on a farm visiting a friend in Montana, panning around with a video saying, you could be like this inventors and own a farm and make it on passive income and so forth. Well, I saw a recent Inventors Digest poll that said that 78% of all inventors that are issued a patent think they're going to become millionaires, and that 56% think they're going to make $5 million. And the fact of the matter is that the people that become millionaires are a small percentage, well under 1%, well under 1%, and that probably only a couple percent even make back more than the amount of money they invest in it. And yet you have these folks going around as invention ambition companies, invention marketing companies, coaches, clever ways of extracting money from you and getting you to pay up front on these lure of dreams and everything. And I've been on the other side. I look at thousands of product submissions a year, and I talk to, as I say in the book, I probably texted, emailed, phoned, or otherwise communicated with well over 100,000 inventors over the last 15 years. So I put in my Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours on this subject, and very few. Now I've helped quite a few people become millionaires. So it's not out of the question, but the odds are remote, and people need to look at this realistically. So I set about to say, let me write a book that's not from the marketing standpoint, not from, people who are trying to sell you something and have you sign up for their associated courses and programs, but let me tell the real story of the book from the inside of what it looks like from inside the company. So I do go into product development. I get fairly serious about it from things that I've learned along the way, in all the time I've spent, the importance of building prototypes, the importance of testing them, the importance of making sure that they're functional, and then using those functional claims, as Mike will tell you, to file IP and proper IP, and using the right people, and all the basic old school approaches to hard work and dedication to get your product, to advance your product all along the way, getting feedback and sensing whether there's something in it and being very careful with, as I say, spending your shekels. This is opposed to some of the teachings that are going on today and some of the more popular books that say, just come up with an idea, sketch it out or do a CAD and just throw it in, send it into a company and throw it against the wall with sort of support documentation that companies love looking at ideas and so forth. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that that's kind of troubling to me, because sure, all the companies are going to tell you they want to see your ideas. But if you don't have any filed patents, or you send in a sketch, it's not going anywhere. You might as well be writing a letter to Santa Claus. Now, people who want to send in 40 or 50 ideas and think something's going to come of it, it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it probably never happened. Maybe there's one person to pull it off, but the odds are really remote. And if you are one of the remote people that somehow figures out the lone way of pulling that off, I can promise you that your royalties will be much less than what you could command if you built the product the right way and it has intellectual property protection and you built prototypes and so forth. So I spend the first half of the book really mechanically going through the nuts and bolts of what I look for in companies, what big companies actually look for if you want to license. And then I have a section on the book about, all right, well, if you want to go to market directly, like we did with Misto, and then there's 30 steps to doing that, and here they are, and I lay that out. So the first half of the book, I talk about a little bit of my background like I did tonight, and then I go mechanically because at the end of the day, I might be a pretty face, but I'm mechanically pretty sound when it comes to evaluating products and taking them to market. And I share that with you, whether you want to go direct or whether you want to license. So if that's your interest, you'll find 100 pages in the book that's really dedicated to hardcore stuff. In fact, when it comes to product development, and Doug's probably familiar with this, I even get into Scamper and Triz, pretty hardcore approaches to product development that companies use. And you can read more about them. I won't go them too much tonight, but they're fairly technical ways to ideate and think of new ideas and so forth. So I try to take from the simple, easy, simple idea, throw it against the wall, in my opinion, bullshit, to, this is what you really need to do if you really want to improve your odds dramatically, and so forth. And then in the second half of the book, I have a section called Inventors Beware. The word beware, B-E-W-A-R-E. And I talk a lot about people who want your money. And I talk about other ways that you can blow your money in a hurry. Here's the lesson I'm going to give to you guys tonight. And I'm going to try to stay positive because sometimes this stuff frustrates me. But if you're going to pay someone to help you, and I'm not talking about a patent attorney, or somebody who builds a prototype. I mean, they have a specific service or goods that you're paying for, that you identify, and that you agree upon a price. That's a transaction. I'm talking about people that sell you coaching services, that sell you inventor, help services and so forth. And you know who they are. That if you're going to pay them up front, that you need to do your homework and research on them. And you need to look past their marketing pitches, because they're very clever. And you have to ask yourself, how many clients do they have? How much money do they take in? And how many of their students or their clients have made any money? And you're going to find that the answer is that somewhere between 97 and 99% of their clients, which is the vast majority, folks, are not making even back enough to pay for their program, okay? And that to me says to me that inventors have to get wise about spending their money carefully and what they expect back in return. And these marketers have very clever ways of answering that. Well, we do this or we do that and we do whatever. But at the end of the day, they're the ones making money and you're not. And that's kind of a big theme in the book. I then go into some of the new platforms out there like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and crowdfunding, and how to facilitate and use that. Along the way, I interview and research and quote a lot of people that are experts. Roy Morjean's the #1 launcher of Kickstarter programs in the world. So he's a friend of mine, and so I get into a lot of that. I then go into direct response television and talk a lot about that as an industry. And then I come back, talk about politics in Washington, D.C. and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And you have to know that the big tech companies in America, starting with Google, have had a heavy hand and effect on changing some of our intellectual property laws, most notably the American Invents Act of 2012, which was instituted in 2013, which among other things has an internal court at the patent office called the PTAB, the Patent Trial and Appeal Board, which you could have an issued patent. And if you get into a dispute now in the marketplace on infringement, the company can take you back to the patent office, put you through a tribunal, and have your patent or major claim stripped by the same organization that issued them. Okay, and unfortunately, not a small number of cases, relatively few, come back before the Patent Trial Appeal Board, because the only cases that come forth are ones of products that have been a commercial success and people are fighting over. All the other patents nobody cares about. But there's been about 3,200 PTAB cases actually adjudicated in this Patent Trial Appeal Court, which has about 200 judges, and I happen to be an expert on it. Mike, if you ever want to talk about it, I just did a program with the chief judge the other day. And about 84% of these are getting one or at least one claim bounced out of the patent. And by the way, if you go to court and you litigate over the validity, over the enforcement of a patent, at least in court, you as a patent owner, if you have an issued patent, is considered to be valid. If you go back to the PTAB, it was very cleverly written. The validity comes off the table and you go back as if it was never approved. So it's a lot like changing the score of a football game. You know, what if the other night they said, okay, Arizona, your field goal is no good. We're letting Seattle kick another field goal. This is kind of what goes on. So I've been very involved walking the halls of Congress. I'm not a lobbyist. We're not allowed to be a lobbyist. We're a 501c3, but I am an advocate and very involved with the U.S. Inventor and Josh Malone. I don't know if you know those guys at all, who invent a bunch of balloons, and trying to push back and trying to be the voice of the inventor community in a very trying time. So I talk a lot at the end of the book about why innovation is important, why organic innovation is important, and what we really need to do in this country if we want to stay creative and inventive, because the big tech companies, I mean, companies like Google have massive power now. They have the biggest lobby representation in Washington, D.C. with almost 100 lobbyists. Say what you will politically, but they were very tied into the last administration. And I'm not trying to get political, or because there's much bigger issues than the patent scene in Washington, but very tied into Google. The head of the patent office was Michelle Lee, who was a patent attorney at Google. These patent tribunals were put in under her. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And basically what I try to do is make inventors more aware. Instead of this rosy picture that you could become a millionaire, I try to take the other side, as Doug would call it, the corollary, and explain to people what they need to be aware of. But the book it's a pretty easy read. Just really quickly, I'll finish up by saying and answer any questions you have. I wrote the whole book, but I would not have done it without a very dear friend, Jeff Mangus. Jeff is an inventor. He also does some ghostwriting. He lost his leg recently, so he's changed professions. He does a lot of writing. We worked together through a lot of Zoom calls over the years, but I put the whole thing together. You know, we sketched it out, and then I rewrote, you know, every word of it. So, but I couldn't. But Jeff gets a tremendous amount of credit for being there every step of the way with me, guiding me through, because I never would have written the book. Never. As I said to him, I'm too busy living life rather than reporting on it. So it was a big, and if people have other questions, by the way, my email, it's Tuttle, that's 2 W's, Tuttle, Tuttle @yahoo.com. So if anybody wants to hear more about writing a book, it was quite, well, Doug, you have a lot of experience at it, but it's quite the process, 2 years and evenings, weekends, and thousands of hours. So it's quite a thing, but I think you might find the book fun. It was supposed to be published and come out in the fall. You might have read in a recent article in the New York Times in August that almost all the major publishing houses pushed back 6 months. So rather than the fall, it's coming out in March. It's already listed on Amazon. But my publisher, I'm very proud to say, is HarperCollins. They're the second biggest book company in the world. And quite frankly, I sent out the proposal to about 30 companies. And I got responses from 3 or 4. And I was shocked that it was almost like applying to all these schools and Harvard, and then Harvard was interested. So they've been great to work with. My agent actually lives in Fairfield, and he's been terrific too. And so the whole process of writing a book, very, very similar, by the way, to inventing, and to then go out and put together a deal with the book publisher and all of that, and get paid royalties and so forth. So a lot of similarities. So hopefully I can get you somewhat interested in it. I don't expect the book to be a big seller, but great seller, but it is, it might be a fun read for you and those people that either want to go to market or want to get a better picture. I give at the end of the book an assignment to everybody to make innovation better in America. I give Congress to write better laws, including Darrell Issa and Bob Goodlatte, who totally screwed up the Inventor situation. I give the Supreme Court and Clarence Thomas things to do. They're trying to, through oil states and other Supreme Court rulings, change patents from being a property right, as they're constitutionally protected, to being a government franchise that can be taken away. We should be aware of that. I give big companies, consumers, everybody something to do. If we really want innovation to be around after Google and Amazon, you know, destroy the place, and to have an incentive in individuals doing things in the future, we need to get on this now and bring it back to us, because these big companies, who, by the way, used patents to get started, you know, 15 years ago, now that they're up in the tree fort, they're doing everything possible to rein in the patent office and make it easier for them to infringe. So now you all have read recently about some of the efforts, perhaps to break up some of the bigger tech companies. So we'll see where that goes. There's obviously other issues involved besides IP, but in terms of the IP world, these guys have had an inordinate amount of influence on what's happening. And you guys as inventors and independent entrepreneurs should be aware of it. So that's kind of the theme of the book. And I'm happy, Doug, to answer any questions at all. So.
Well, what I've done is I muted everybody. So if you're wanting to ask a question, you're going to have to unmute yourself. I would only ask that we take turns. I'm not going to be the moderator that calls on people. So if somebody wants to chime in, let's let them have the floor for a little bit before we interrupt. So
let me just, Doug,
Sure.
you know, I've seen Warren, you know, you can see his passion, and I know he's worked incredibly hard on this whole area, and really is an expert. It's amazing what you've done and how. So if you have an interest or you need this expertise, I would highly recommend it. And I was looking at your book on Amazon, so it looks good. So I'll get it. But I have to wait till March 23rd. That's a long time.
Well, Doug, I know. I didn't want to start the promotion too early, but someone else in the industry who's not going to be happy with the book has started using my title and doing posts. So I said, well, I've got to launch it. But Doug, I'll come over and sign it. We'll have lunch at Post Corner, and I had lunch with Bob Oros today. So
it's good. Nice. You should also mention, you didn't mention about selling your store to Paul Newman. You want to tell him?
Well, yeah. So along the way, I have a little line in there. So actually, Paul was my partner, my business partner. So he and Sandy Falconer were partners at the Good Food Store, and then I acquired that store from them when Sandy wanted to get out. And Paul Newman was awesome. We did a lot of catering for him. We always had to have lots of cases of long neck Budweiser beer because that's what he loved. And once a year he would call Doug and just ask how I was doing. And sometimes ladies at the store would answer, and she'd say, well, this is Paul Newman, you know, and they'd say, and they said, it's Warren, it's Paul Newman. And they go, no, that's not Paul Newman, is it? You know, because he had an amazing effect on women, I think. I don't know. But so you know, Doug, too, that we had Julia Child come to the store once, and we had 800 people in line down the street, and so you know, it was a great opportunity. And Doug, I think you'd agree with that. It was a great time when we were younger, and some vibrant and interesting people in town like you and John Weigel and you know, Neil Houck, and a whole bunch of young people that went on to do other great things. So it was a fun time. And all we had to do, Doug, was get the movie theater open. That's all we had to do.
Hey, this is Mark Roser. I just wanted to comment and say thank you and acknowledge Warren. Warren has shared some of my ideas and presented them to Lifetime Brands, and he's reviewed other ideas. So just to give a big shout out of thanks and credibility, and thank you for the fair treatment throughout all that. So just to start with that. And then a question for you, Warren, which is, you know, in your travels and experiences, you know, here's a group of inventors. Are there other groups out there of people who actually love to do business development and sales, and like peanut butter and chocolate? Shouldn't we be getting together with them, or something else to help blend the talents of things that, you know, I'm not great at, but no, there's other people who are great at those things?
Well, it's a really good question. And there's always that boundary, you know, where inventors start and stop, and where entrepreneurs start. I would throw a third group in there called makers, you know. Let me, before I forget, Mark, and I'm going to answer your question. I have 18 endorsements for the book. And one of them is from Dale Dougherty, who's the father of the maker movement. So I was very proud to get that. Another, by the way, is from the president of Home Depot. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, more and more, we've been trying to get the Small Business Administration involved with a lot of the local clubs around the country. Some are teaming up with them. Doug, that might be something that you might have some more interest in, so that we get more entrepreneurs associated with it, and people that can partner. A lot of times inventors do need help getting to market. And like I helped Tom Rich get Misto to market. It's almost like a restaurant. You know, you have the front of the house with the maitre d' and the back of the house with the chef. I think that's a really, really wise way to do that. And teaming up with an individual that can partner with you is a lot better sometimes than using a big company that doesn't really know the nuance. So I would say that's something we've had at a lot of our national conventions in Washington, more SBA involvement, and I think we need to do a little bit more of that. Hey, and Mark, I also wanted to tell you, one of the products you told me about that you were working on years ago was macular degeneration.
Yes.
Are you still doing that?
Yeah, we just we have a study going in the UK. We published our data a couple years ago with strong results from Johns Hopkins, and we're now working with UCLA. So that's an area where we're now trying to work and do a better job of business development. So another example of a great product that could use some extra injection in the arm of business development help. But as far as the product goes, it's working well and patients like it.
Well, my mom had macular degeneration, and I take after in a lot of ways. So I remember you telling me that if you catch it early on, it's a good thing. So I want to buy one of those. Sign me up. I'll swap you a couple books, and you know.
Oh, that sounds. I'll send a few down. I love it. Love it.
That's great. Thank you.
You bet.
By the way, Mark is an expert. Is from Connecticut and knows a lot of the ins and outs of the SBIR. Which I don't know how many folks understand that, but it's fairly sophisticated and not easy to apply to, but it's a national, well, it's divided by states, but nationally they have funding. What do they give? I think like $2 billion a year out in funding to startup projects and so forth. And
yeah, $2 billion. And each of the branches of the government that give awards have to set aside 2%. So it gives you some idea of the scale of the research that goes on outside of small business. So we've received grants from the National Institutes of Health, from the Administration for Community Living, which focuses on the people with disabilities, and also from the National Science Foundation. And the process is that you compete in a very highly competitive field by writing an application. The NSF does a good thing, which is it pre-screens your first 2-pager before you're invited back to submit a 20-page application. The NIH, you just have to throw your hat in the ring. There's really 6 official grant pages, but 100 pages of supporting documents, and it's about a 7% success rate. So the likelihood of getting successful is really, it's a steep hill, but it's very doable if you have good contacts. Anybody who's on the line, or if you need help or guidance, just feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to share. So, and my consulting website is openinnovators.com. So openinnovators.com. You can click there, or mark.roser@openinnovators.com. I'd be happy to share my SBIR info with anyone.
Cool.
I used to be an NSF panelist, but I didn't care for it. It turns out they had, at the time, no pre-screening. So there was a large pile of sort of DNR, do not resuscitate grants. And we would just throw them on there, and we knew they were never going to get considered because the number considered was quite small. And as a result, we were funding things that I felt should not have been funded. For example, another toolbox for MATLAB. Things like that. It's like bringing coals to Newcastle at 1+. And, they say they would like to fund the next transistor, but they're too risk adverse a bunch. So I became disgusted with it. But maybe they're all better now. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it varies, and it's political, even though it's supposed to be designed not to be. And you get that feeling because, my success rate is about 1 in 7 for grant applications. So it's painful to go through 6 rejections to get to that 1 acceptance. But it's an alternative in highly technical fields to asking for angel support when people just scratch their head and look at you and wonder what crazy thing you've developed. And so it does provide that avenue if you enjoy writing and can put together a proposal.
If you track your hours and you figure out how many hours you've spent on those grants that you didn't get and how many hours you spent on the grant you did get, and then divide by the total amount that you got, how much are you getting paid per hour?
Oh, that's really low, because then it gets worse than that. Then you have to keep working and supporting the grant. And so the actual, you're right. It takes me about 200 hours per application because I do track my hours. And so you're talking 1,200 to 1,400 hours per success. And then once you do have a successful grant, you're only getting, you do allow yourself to get paid on a project management basis. But the amount of hours that I'm now dedicated full-time, so it's a small stipend. It allows me to keep the wheels turning and minimize the amount that I have to live out of the bank. So it gives me a run rate. But you're right, it's daunting.
But if you got $200,000 and you spent what, 17,000 hours? No.
No, 1,600 hours.
All right, so you're, it's like $100 an hour. So that's all right, I guess. It's better than being a Walmart greeter.
Whoa. There's nothing wrong with being a Walmart greeter.
No, they don't get paid as much.
So I'm sure there's more questions though. So fire away.
Or as far as other avenues for licensing and introducing technologies to companies, I've got a couple. I'm trying to support my medical device habit by trying to license some easier products that don't take clinical trials to get through. And so I've got a basketball product, for example, that it's a new basketball net. There's really two major suppliers there. We're being evaluated by Spalding, and then Champion, the other brand, doesn't accept outside ideas. Is there strategies that you've got for companies that don't accept outside ideas in terms of, I've connected with a guy on LinkedIn, but I haven't really pushed him yet to review, but strategies in that regard?
Well, it seems as if companies that don't take outside ideas are typically led by the legal team at the company. Attorneys see open innovation programs and dealing with the outside is fraught with lots of danger. It turns out at TTI, we were doing a decent program for a number of years while I was overseeing it as an outside contractor, but they have a lawsuit with an inventor that goes back predated when I was there about a garage door opener that they're still fighting. It's going to Supreme Court. I saw it listed recently as Tektronix versus like some inventor. So what happens when that happens, companies get frightful and they get afraid and they shut down. When a company shuts down and doesn't take outside ideas, there's very little that you can do. I even on the side try to go back to TTI and say, hey, this is really good. You should take a look at it with or without me. I don't care. And they continually turn it down. So unfortunately, you have to ferret out the companies that are inventor friendly. And that comes from either looking at their websites or contacting them and find out what the protocol is. If they've even heard of, taking outside ideas and so forth, you have to vet that. But I found that the companies that shut down and don't take outside ideas, it's almost impossible to work with them. You almost have to cross them off your list and go on to the next one.
Okay.
Then you have to decide, and I talk about this a lot, about which, if you have a couple of companies you can approach, which one should you approach? I always like to start with the biggest, baddest one on the block, because typically they have the most brands, they have the most outreach, the most shelf space, the most clout. And if you can get them to get behind you and take it, then your chances for success are much larger. And they usually have the most resource funding to put into any final development of the product and launching it. Because at the end of the day, if you're licensing, the only way to make money on licensing is to sell a lot of units. If you're not selling many, you're not going to make much on each individual royalty. Like my book, if I only sell 500 books, not going to make much money. If I sell 1 million of them, I'll make money. So the question you have to ask yourself is what companies are they open innovation friendly? Are they outside friendly? Do they want to work with you? And then beyond that, do they have the resources? Because sometimes I see these coaching, coaches and bragging about someone signing a licensing deal. Sometimes it's in the housewares field with companies I've never heard of, and I've been in the industry for 40 years. So those companies don't have a lot of resources, even if it's successful, to get behind the product. So I would recommend finding the right company and then starting your list at the top with the biggest players in the market.
Warren, how do you approach a big company in order to get them to take a look at your product?
Good question. I usually, research the marketplace in a variety of ways. So number one, almost every industry has an industry trade show or a trade organization. Now, I know these days trade shows aren't running, but you can go on their sites, like the housewares industry, for instance. They have the International Housewares Association. You can go on their site. You can look for member companies. For probably a small amount of money, you could even join and get a breakdown of what companies are involved in what categories. So you could actually see who the companies are in the arena that you want to exploit. I used to say you could also go down to Bed Bath and like the housewares area or their local stores and try to get a list of companies that are selling products similar to you. But you can also do that research online with Amazon. If you're in the medical device practice, there's other ways to go about doing it because it's not so consumer related. But you have to do your research and you got to land out the companies. And then once I've identified a list of core companies that are in the space, Doug, then I do my research. My next step is to go online and look at their website, study it very carefully to see if they take outside ideas. A lot of times companies that do will brag about it. They'll put it right on the homepage. We accept outside, innovative ideas, come to us, blah, blah, blah. Here's the process. If I don't see a lot of feedback, then I usually reach out to the company. You would be surprised. I put this in the book, what you learn by calling the company and getting the main switchboard operator and saying, hey, I'm an inventor. I have a new product that I've patented and I'm interested in licensing it to your company. Who would I speak to? If they say, oh, that's Susan Jones, she's the head of our arena in that area, it's probably a good sign that they have taken calls like that in the past and that they're pretty proficient, at least on processing those calls to the right people. If they say, I don't even know who to send you to, and they have to look through a list, it's probably not a good idea. We're still in an era where most companies don't run great open innovation programs. There's probably 20% of the best companies. So you have to ferret out who the right companies are. And then once you identify them, you can reach out. I call, I swear to God, I call, and every company that I help, the first people I talk to is a switchboard operator so they could send people my name and number. But I also make sure that the companies I work put my name on the website and there's a conduit to get in touch with me. You may have to ferret that out. If nothing else works and you can't get it from the switchboard, find out the chairman of the company and send an email. It's usually pretty easy. It's usually can be found. Send a note to the chairman of the company. If they're not the right person to contact, they'll pass it down. Even at Lifetime Brands, for instance, the chairman gets a couple of leads from inventors every year and it comes right to me right after that. So you would reach out, in those ways to eventually get the right person to speak to. And then the game really begins, and I go a lot in the book, is how you present your product to them and how you advance the protocol, which I'm happy to talk about. But those are the steps I take. Now, in normal times, going to a trade show, an industry trade show, and every single industry from housewares to sporting goods to medical products has trade shows. You can really cut down your lead time dramatically by going to the show and walking it, because you can walk right into booths, get the names of the people, converse with people right on the selling floors and all that. But in these times when we're, COVID restricted in our houses, you got to do a lot more research online. You got to reach out by phone and email and ferret it out the best you can.
And Warren, I've noticed that there were some people like Stephen Key, for example, who would essentially sell you a course on how to license. Are those things worthwhile taking? I never took one of those courses. Well, here we go. I would say that he presents himself as an inventor coach with a licensing course. There are other companies that are marketers that do things in different ways. I would heartily recommend to you to find out his success rates. I can tell you that I get a lot of submissions from students of his in particular. A lot of them haven't built prototypes and they take shortcuts. And so he's teaching. Now, I understand the idea of saving money, but even if there's a product I like, a lot of times they haven't mechanically proven it even works. And that's kind of suspect. So when I get something from one of his students, I already sort of cut it in half, and I have to do a lot of ferreting to see if it's really worthwhile to pursue. Now, some of his students are fine.
they're wonderful people, and I end up spending a lot of time with them, helping them through the process. So to the extent that they're connected with someone like me or someone similar, I suppose that's good. But the course, from what I understand, is $3,000 for 6 months. And then you're assigned a coach, which with the coach, really, they don't have a lot of experience. And I would say that there's probably that 97 to 99%, rate that people aren't going to make back the money they spent in the course. So if you got the $3,000 and you want to learn something, and I suppose, and the money's no problem, then I think it's great. You can read stuff and materials and books too to learn. But if the money is, I had 2 people over the summer that signed up for his course. They were both at the poverty line. One of them qualified for the National Pro Bono Patent, and they scraped together money from friends to take the course, thinking that they were, going to make a lot of money off of it. And if money's tight, and see, here's the thing, Doug, when you have a limited budget, you have to decide how best to spend your money. So do you spend it on prototypes? Do you spend it on patents? Do you spend it on going to a trade show? Do you spend it on a coach? Now a guy like Stephen Key's trying to convince you that, he should spend it with him, and spend your $3,000 with him. I argue in the book, there's a whole lot of other considerations to take if money's very tight and limited with you. So you have to be very careful about that. So there's no doubt some things you can learn about it. We do have different philosophies on, he's more of an idea guy in general, and throwing ideas out there. I'm more into prototypes. I believe in trade shows. He's not big on trade shows. He's all over the map on patents. I'm a very strong patent supporter and so forth. So we have different approaches to it. But at the end of the day, if you're going to take a course like that, please, please, please vet it carefully and ask for the success. I don't hear enough people asking them, what are your success rates, before they sign up. They seem to go sort of with the pitch that, hey, I'm one of those people who's going to be a millionaire and they're going to light the path for me. It just doesn't work that way. And that's kind of the purpose of my book.
So I think the reason the students are contacting you is because your name appears in the back of his book.
Yeah. And yes, and that's fine. I love helping people. And my model is I get paid by the companies. So if people are nice and interesting and pleasant and have a good idea, I love to help them. Yeah, we've kind of gone slightly different directions. I also have an organization that I support called the UIA. We're an Inventors Association. We're a 501c3. We're a nonprofit. We do a lot of educational supported initiatives. Stephen started a sort of, I wouldn't call it a rival organization, but another organization called the IGA, the Inventors Groups of America. It's just an extension of his business model. I pleaded with him to be a 501c3. And instead, when you call the 800 number, you get his coaches trying to, convert you into a sale. So not that they don't give out some information, but at the end of the line, at the end of the day, Stephen's core mission is cash flow, and he makes a fair amount of money, and I don't know who else is making it. So it's all sort of a funnel into him. So all I would say is you got to ask him really the questions beyond the pale of what's in this for me. How do I benefit, and can I make that money back, that I'm investing? And if that money's important to me, that's sort of crucial. And those are my questions for Stephen Key. There are other companies, marketing companies that are different, that are more submission oriented, and they sort of have a reputation. I think in part Stephen's tried to design his to be different and scoot around the American Inventor Protection Act of '99, which makes you actually publish your success stories. But I would just say that those are questions for him that you would have to ask him. So.
Another question regarding submission. When you do a submission to a company, how often do you submit to 2 at a time, or do you do them one after the other, or do you do them in parallel?
It's okay, Mark, to submit to multiple companies. I think, people often ask that to me, and sometimes people say, I'm going to just submit to you first. And I appreciate that, but I always say to people, and I'll say it again and again, you got to do what's in your own best interest. And, the companies that I work with, I'm pretty convinced that if I like the product and I pursue it with the inventor, I feel that I can make a compelling case that we're the right company to go with. But I always say to the inventor up front, you have to make that decision at the end of the day. And if you want to submit to multiple companies, then I have to prove to you why we're the best company. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of competition. Now, at some point, you want to be polite. Please don't say to me things like, if you don't get back to me in a week, I'm going to take it to somebody else, because I have no interest in hearing that. I will say to you, go take it to somebody else. I happen to represent the biggest companies in my industry. So you know, if that's the route you want to go. But if you say to me, hey, do you mind if I submit to other companies? I'm like all for that. And if I come back to you and I say, here's what we can do, and you think you can get a better deal, then take it. Okay. And by the way, I'll even help you, you know, with the parameters of what a deal looks like, because at the end of the day, I'm much better served both emotionally and all other ways by inventors being successful. My companies are going to be just fine. Lifetime's having a record year this year during COVID, the record profit, because of Amazon and people cooking at home and so forth. I'm not worried about their future. I'm worried about the inventor's future. I got to keep my credibility. So now at some point, a company may say to you, I might call you back and say, hey, Mark, we love this product. You know, before you make a decision with anybody else, let me come back with our offer to you. And and that's legitimate. Sometimes companies will say to you, hey, Mark, we'll pay you a certain amount, you know, in order to have a 6-week window to negotiate with you. It doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen from time to time. So all those things are on the table. But as far as submitting to multiples, I would do my diligence and my homework. I would form the 4 core companies. I would rank them in order. I would start with the one I want most. But I wouldn't fall asleep, because the process is always slow. It always goes slower than you think. It's not like applying to Fairfield University where you have to get your applications in by November 15th and they're going to let you know by March 3rd or whatever it is. You know, sometimes companies take 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. You know, I'm in one that's going on for months now that we love the product, but they just sometimes move slowly. So it's not a bad idea to sort of know your options out there and keep goosing along. But just all I would say is just be polite and present it in the right way, and it'll all be palatable.
And you did mention Kickstarter before. Do you believe in testing the market with crowdfunding prior to trying to license?
Yeah, I'm gonna change that question around a little bit, and the answer is yes. You know, it's an interesting debate, Doug, whether Kickstarter is a legitimate window to what your sales potential will be, for a whole bunch of reasons, because of who the clientele is and who buys on Kickstarter and so forth. However, if you're successful on Kickstarter, it has to be good. It has to say good things in general. So I don't know that I would necessarily think of Kickstarter in terms of being a marketplace test as much as I would an opportunity to raise some capital, you know, to get your project off the ground. And if along the way sales are dramatic, it's probably feeding back and telling you something. I have licensed many products off of Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I have a huge hit called Food Huggers at Lifetime Brands now that I found on the sites. So yes, the one negative is that people are scanning Kickstarter and Indiegogo every day. So if you put a product on there, know that it's going to be seen, and people that can see what you're raising are might be apt to copy you quickly. The story is, do you guys know the story of Josh Malone and Bunch of Balloons?
Yeah.
Josh runs US Inventor. He was ripped off by Telebrands, and they went on and raised over $1 million on Kickstarter. And then before you know it, Telebrands had a version of it. And they fought in court, and Josh eventually prevailed on that. But a lot of times it doesn't go, it's not a happy ending. So you got to be careful of other people stealing your product. But yes, you can leverage it a lot of times in the licensing. Sometimes companies will contact you. But at the end of the day, a lot of people also go on Kickstarter to start their own businesses. And if they can raise enough capital, you know, I think it's a brilliant way, uncollateralized way to raise capital. I will say this though, it's become more sophisticated to get on, and the quality of your presentation has to be better. It's more expensive today. It's not like in the olden days a couple of years ago when you could just throw anything up there. But I think that you probably want to look around for someone maybe that can help guide you through the process. And you also need to accompany your Kickstarter launch with a fairly aggressive social media campaign to make sure the word gets out and you give your product a chance to raise money and be successful, because the algorithms there are such that if you start to raise a certain amount of money and get over a certain threshold, then they start marketing more and putting it on all their announcements and everything. So there's a bit of a cadence and approach to it. But I love the platform. I love the concept overall. And I do have a chapter in the book about all that.
Are there any other questions?
I do have a question. I don't know if it's on topic enough, but Warren, do you have any advice on the ideation process and how to, like, is there a proven process for how to ideate new ideas and come up with new ideas?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great question. So I try to address that in a couple of ways. Look, I have a line that I use. I hope it's not too corny. It's I'm a biologist, not a chemist. And what do I mean by that? To me, biologists are a little bit more organic. They plant a seed, they watch it grow. Chemists, I think, come to the equation with a little bit more of a formula, and they'll put things together and they expect a certain result. The inventor world, by and large, is more biological and more organic, so that it's a matter of pursuing things and seeing where they develop and how they grow and where the thresholds are and when you pull back. So I believe in doing it organically, where you start and you come up with the idea, and you may have multiple ideas and then you settle on some. But I do believe in the process in building some sort of functioning prototype, even if it's cheap materials and stuff, to sort of prove whether you have something there, and following that process eventually into IP and so forth. But I do put a chapter in about TRIZ. I don't know if you've ever heard TRIZ, T-R-I-Z. It's a 40-step ideation platform developed by Russian scientists who were in prisoner of war camps in World War II, that basically structurally, and you can read in the book, or you can look up TRIZ. I'm sure you can Google it. It's how a lot of companies ideate and how they communally get together and challenge themselves to spark innovation ideas. So I do get a little into a little bit of that. There's Scamper, which is SCAMPER, which each letter stands for something important in terms of ideation. Scamper is a simpler version of TRIZ, and again, it's meant to sort of spur you into ideation. So I would recommend looking into those two, Scamper and TRIZ, and when the book comes out, reading about it, where I lay it out. So if you want something more sophisticated, you might find that a real eye-opening experience.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I think what I'll do is I'll wrap things up. It's getting a little bit late, but what we're going to do is we're going to have another speaker, last speaker of the year, and that'll be on the 24th of March. But I haven't verified with the speaker that he's going to be on, so I've got to go back to the speaker and make sure they haven't forgotten that they've committed to do a presentation. But meanwhile, I hope everyone will join me in thanking Warren for the presentation. Warren, that was excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And everybody stay safe and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.